Hello, everybody. You are in Inner Outer Space Harmony, a Laban Bartenieff and other things movement class. And I am just going to respond to some of the things that we've been talking about before I turned on the record button. So Fabian was talking about the homolateral and contralateral movement. And so in Laban, we learn about, and it's Laban Bartenieff, about the developmental patterns that babies go through. So like the first developmental pattern, it's really obvious movement where something comes in. Like first we're just, blah, 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 in that space where it's like everything's kind of a small kinesphere and we're not moving out too much. But then once they start to actually be able to mobilize a little, the first real pattern that shows up in the structure is that upper versus lower homolateral pattern. Sorry, homologous pattern, upper versus lower. Hey, Lindsay. And then the second pattern, so upper versus lower, they start to push pull. They're usually laying on their stomachs and they're kind of pushing up and down. And then the next one would be the side versus side, homolateral movement. And then the next one would be the contralateral movement, cross body movement. So anything where we're crossing, walking, running, skiing, like cross country skiing, really great contralateral patterns. And what these do for our nervous system, when we cycle through those patterns, like we do an upper versus lower, we do a right versus left, and then we do a contralateral pattern, what we're doing is really toning our nervous system. And how this relates to fascia is that our nervous system is routed through our fascia. So when we move with all these different patterns, we're really shifting the three-dimensionality of what's going on in our system. So in a way, what we can say is that when we meet that upper versus lower, one side versus the other, cross-body movement, like twisting versus doing these things, we're just getting this really three-dimensional. If you imagine, let's just say that this is some part of the inside of your body. When you start to squish it around, actually I can show you better with my cube. So it's not that it's going to be a cube, but if you start to squish it around, you're going to hydrate the tissue in different ways. And that's why that work with the contralateral upper versus lower, right versus left is so important. And also that's one reason why. There's so many reasons why, because it gives us this much more three-dimensional movement of the fascia, which in turn is moving your nervous system in that way. So it's a more full complexity of possibility than just if we do sort of linear movements. And this is what Fabian was saying before, was that when we're doing some of these things, we're opening out. It's just a lateral. If we're going into the side, it's just a lateral homolateral movement. But if I cross, now I'm contralateral. I'm working cross body. And so in these scales, and we're going to get into doing the scales for my people who are new, in these scales, we have these different possibilities of our nervous system. We have the upper versus lower. We have the right versus left in an open. And then when we cross, we add contralateral. So we're adding this extra thing to it. And anytime we work that contralateral movement, or cross body movement, it doesn't even have to be contralateral, because contralateral here, I'm not crossing midline. But if I go here and I cross midline, it changes what's going on in my corpus callosum, which is the great superhighway in our brain. All right, that was a huge waffle. We're actually going to get moving. And anytime I go onto one of these things, feel free to just get up and move with me, or just move your body in any way. So you start to take it in on a body level. And let me say hello to Mind, Heart, Conscious Swiftness, because I don't think I've met you before. Well, you may not be in the room right now.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. I was listening fervently, but I was also burning food in the kitchen. So okay. I'm moving with you bilaterally and bilaterally and omnidirectionally.
Woo! Okay. Excellent. So that was just talking to Fabian's thing. We're going to talk to Michael's thing also, which was about, he's been adding sound to some of the humming and sounding to some of the scales, and we're going to get into doing the scales. So for my newer people, we'll work through the scales in a minute, but just to talk to this idea of sounding and what sounding does. And so Irmgard Bartenieff was she was a student of Laban's, and she was a performer, a dancer, and she became a physical therapist who had a lot to do with dance movement therapy. And she developed, found that sounding was really helpful in working with the tissue. Now, I have continued to study sounding in many different ways and done a lot of Emily Conrad's continuum work, which I highly, highly, highly recommend.
Yeah.
So each of the sounds, each of the, in Bartenieff work with sounding, it's a little bit more specific. In the continuum work with sounding, it's very much more of an inquiry, although there are some things that tend to pop up. So in the Bartenieff work, one thing that she came up with was this idea that different sounds vibrate more in different places of our body, or it's easy to see where they are. So in Bartenieff, it would be, the sounding would be like coming deep in our belly would be like an ooh sound. So like ooh, and then a little bit higher, oh, a little higher, ah, a little higher, a little higher, e. So there's this sense, and if we really spent some time laying on our floor making those sounds, there's probably a good chance that we could come up with feeling it like that. It's worked for me to feel it very clearly in those places. And I've had singers also come up with that, like, oh yeah, I'd never thought of that, but yes, that's true.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
And then also Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, who studied with Irmgard and does body mind centering, talks about how like the ah sound, ah is very aligned with the vertical, the e with the horizontal, and the ooh with the sagittal. So this is, now we're going to work backward and work into those places. So let's move. Oh, I was going to start small. Let's get small first. So let's get into the inner first. And we're just going to do it with our eyes. So, and you can do it with your eyes open or closed. Maybe we start open and then we close. So we're just going to go up, down, side, side, and then backwards and forwards, whatever that means to you in your own head. So this is the basic scale: vertical, up, down, maybe the other side first, side, side, horizontal, backwards and forwards, sagittal. So trying to keep it as purely one-dimensional as possible. And obviously we are three-dimensional beings, so there's no such thing as one-dimensional movement. But for the sake of the language of Laban movement analysis, we're going to say that this up-down is the vertical. Up, down, vertical, side, side, horizontal, forward, backward, sagittal. So like we're imagining that here's my vertical line, here's my horizontal line, here's my sagittal line. You can think of sagittal like Sagittarius, right? The archer. There's that, yeah, that helps you know immediately, oh, it's forward, backward, sagittal, Sagittarius. So I'm just going to show you these symbols and then we'll move it. Actually, sorry, I'm going 6 different, I'm like having 4,000 conversations in my own head about what we're going to do next. I want to do it with our eyes closed once. So we've thought about that up, down. We've got the side, side. You can go either way, forward, backward, just with eyes closed. So really feeling into the three-dimensionality of your eyeballs, of those huge balls of water in your head. So going up, down, take your time, let yourself slow down, side, side, backwards, and forwards. And maybe your tempo is totally different. Maybe you need to go much slower or much faster. Feel free to honor your own tempo. But let's play with that just a few more times with just the eyeballs in your head. Good, nice. And hello, Virginia, just to say hi to you. And I'm going to mute everybody, and you're welcome to unmute whenever necessary. I'm just muting you so that you don't take over the video when you don't want to. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you these symbols, and we'll move them in our whole body. Of course, they're not in order. Okay, here we go. This is our up. Place high. It's a rectangle with a bunch of lines through it. This is our down. Place low, up and down. So if we put these two pictures together and somebody was a Laban movement analyst or even had studied a little bit, they'd go, oh, that's the vertical dimension. Place high, place low. It's a rectangle that's either colored in or just lines through it. Now, just to make it even more clear, this is place middle. So here's the middle of that. If it's got a dot in it, it's in the middle. If I had better 3 hands, I could hold this together better, but here we go. There it is, vertical dimension. So always that middle point is in there. In this, I'm showing you what is in the exterior of the octahedron. which I'll get more into for my new people. Okay, here we go. The two sides. Side, side, that's the horizontal dimension. Side, side. The point in the middle tells us it's in the middle. So if I put it up here, it would be a different symbol. If I put it down here, a different symbol. Side, side, I've got those 2 points in the middle. That is my horizontal dimension. And then forward, backward. So here's forward and actually, because the video has flipped me, normally this notch is actually on the left side, just so you know. But because we're on video and I'm not sure how you're reading it, whether that is on your left or your right, this should be on the left side. I think it is actually on your left, actually, now looking at it. And this with the notch below is the back. And we also know it's the middle because it's got the dot in the middle. So there's forward and backward, and that is the sagittal dimension, which also would have this in the middle if we're always coming through center. So this is just adding one level, just to confuse you more, or not. Maybe it makes sense. You know, depending on how symbol and language oriented, these things may help you. Let's move that in our whole body right now. So we're just gonna do it with, let me shift my camera so you can see more of me. We're gonna go place high. This is in the vertical. We come through middle to place low. So this is the one with the horizontal, or with the diagonal lines through it. Place high, through the middle. This place low is filled in. Place high, place low. Let's get that on the other side. Place high, place low. And let's do it like this so that you get one more version of it. Oh, here we go. This is one way of looking at it. Place high, place low. Place high, place low. Yeah, even it out. If you haven't done the other side of your body, do the other side a few times. So you're feeling this is the symbology, or the symbols. Place high, place low. And here is place middle. All right, let's go with our sides. Hey, Quentin, we're in the middle of it all, so welcome in. Here are the two sides. So this, right side, left side, right? And if I cross this way, it's still right side. If I cross this way, left side. So these points are the symbols for side. Very clear because they're just arrows in that direction. The dot in the middle tells us that's in the middle level. So that's our side. So let's just cross and open. And this is what Fabian was talking about. So we're gonna go with the right hand and leg, open wide, cross over. Left side and leg are working as counter tension. Side open, side across. Or right side here, left side here. So we're talking about the space, not which body part we're using. We're using the right side and we're moving side open, side across. Or we could say right side middle, left side middle. Okay, let's do that with the other side of the body, just crossing. So this is where we start to balance out because normally we have a dominant side, right? Now we're working both sides. Side across, side open. Side across, side open. Side across, side open. And those 2 points, again, are these. That is the symbol for them. Yeah. And then let's do forward, backwards. So I'm showing the symbol first. And this dot means it's in the middle. The little notch at the top is forward. The notch at the bottom is backward. So those are the symbols for forward and backward. So let's do it with our right side first. We're just going to go forward, middle, backward, middle. Now I'm not talking about, it is the right side of my body moving, but as I talk about the space, it's just straight in front of me. This is a pure dimension, forward and backward, the sagittal dimension. And now we're just going to switch it to the other hand. It's still the same names, backward and forward. Backward middle and forward middle. The other hand can work as a counter tension. This is a very homolateral movement because we're moving one side of the body in opposition to the other side of the body. We're actually not crossing at all. Like it's kind of like this. All right, now one more important thing so that we really get the spiraling is that our hip bones are facing front. So if I go forward but turn my body, now my hip bones are over there. Or if I go to the side but I turn my body, I'm actually just going forward because that's my hip bone, right? So if my hip bones, headlights facing front, when I cross to the side, I still need those headlights facing front. And when I go backwards, I still need those headlights facing front. If I do this backwards, it's just side. If I just move here to here, my whole body's moving as a unit. So I want to go keeping this hip forward, and I'm going to spiral. It's going to feel very different in my body. So let's just try that. Let's just try to really keep the headlights, the hip bones, find them. They're your ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. They are the front notches, the bony landmark, as we would say in Bartenieff, of the front of your pelvis. So there should be two little bones that point and stick out a little bit. So those are, they're kind of like the key to where your movement is. So let's try backward and forward with those headlights facing front. So here, you're gonna have a spiral and an opening. And then here, this one, we're not going like that, we're going like that. Keeping those hips square to the front. Yes. Yes, and try it on the other side as well. Backwards and forwards. So what does this do when I keep my hips square? One, it gives my organs more mobility inside my body. I'm not just moving around like, you know, a person in a corset, like a body that has no mobility or motility in the torso. We want that freedom in our torso. That is going to provide hydration, life force energy, and keep things from getting pathological. Unless we overdo it and then we've torn something and then we hurt ourselves. So let's try it with side side also. So we're going to cross and we're going to keep those hip bones facing front, crossing and opening. So keeping the hips facing front, switch it to the other side, cross and open, as opposed to just turning your hips. Then that's front, it's not side. Cool. Awesome. So let's put the whole thing together as the scale. So the scale, we'll do it on our right side. It's going to go vertical, up, down, horizontal, crossed, open, sagittal, backward, forward. So we're going place high, place low. Side across, side open. Taking it backwards, backwards middle, hip stays forward, to forward middle. Again on that side. Place high, place low, vertical, vertical dimension, side across, side open, horizontal dimension, backwards and forwards, sagittal dimension. Let's try it with the other side of the body. Vertical, up and down, place high, place low, horizontal, side across, side open, sagittal, backwards and forwards. Vertical, place high, place low. Horizontal, we're actually going to right side and then to left side, which is side across, side open. Backwards, hips facing front, and forwards. Good, so let's come in, and if you have a pen and paper, take a second to scribble them down. So let's do that whole scale. And you could write it across, or you could also write it down to up. So when we write movement, like Laban notation or motif writing, which is using these symbols to show what the movement is, it either goes from the left to the right, which probably looks like the other way for you guys, or it goes from the bottom to the top. It's read from the bottom up. So here is the first one. It's so good that I color coded these because just so you know, this is the octahedron, here is the cube. All right, so we have place high. It's a rectangle with the horizontal, whatever, diagonal lines through it. And then the next one is place low. And that is filled in. So everything that takes place at the low level is filled all the way in. just for a reference, you don't need to put this in there right now, but this is the middle place, the center place. Okay, the next one, we're gonna go side across and side open, oops, side open, which would be right side, left side, or left side, right side, whichever way. And these have a dot in the middle, which tells us it's in the middle line. It's in the middle of our body, middle level. Give you a second to do those. And then we have forward and backward. Oops, sorry. Forward and backward. So that divot should be on the left side. Wait a minute, if you're looking at it, it's on the right side. I don't know. Hold on. I got this wrong because it gets different when I turn them around. No, that's it. That way and this way. So one is up and one is down. That is our forward and backward space. I'm already super right-left challenged because I don't feel that different to me. So I'm always like, what? The right, the left. And then when I talk to you guys, I usually have to say the opposite one. So there's a lot of lack of clarity there maybe, but I apologize and hopefully you can figure that out yourselves. All right, so that is that's our octahedron. So to give it, for the newer people, some more context, if we were, and imagine that this shape was a huge shape. That this, instead of a tiny little octahedron, was a large octahedron, which I plan on making one of these days. Our up-down is the vertical dimension. This point to this point is the horizontal dimension. Forward, backward is the sagittal dimension. So this shape, this little octahedron, is the inner scaffolding of the dimensional cross of axis, which is the most basic scale in Laban's space harmony. So we can also think that, and this is a Platonic solid, every angle is the same as every other angle. Every face is the same as every other face. And there are 5 Platonic solids. So there's that one. There's the tetrahedron, the most basic one. 4 sides, and it's a bunch of triangles. And if we sat like this, don't you love my rolly ottoman? If we sat cross-legged with our arms kind of down, we're making basically a tetrahedron, right? Here's a point, point, and our butt is a point. And you can kind of roll this thing around, but it's the most stable space. Hold on, Abby is coming in too. Okay. So any questions, any comments, any concerns? Where are you now with that? If for my new people, if your brain is feeling fried, then I apologize, but it's just giving more, it's giving you just a little bit more. For me, the more ways I can reach into an idea, the more shape and fullness it has, the easier it is to remember. So it's like the memory palace, the whole like, yeah, building a structure that then you can place things within so that you can know where and what they are. So for me, that involves color, shape, all that kind of stuff. Okay, hello, Abby. And reflections. Anybody notice anything? Anything come up or did get more clear or more unclear?
I have a question. With this symbols for the notation we've used, we don't have a way to know if we are doing right or left, do we?
Right. Well, you would know if it was right or left because it would be pointing in the direction.
That one.
But you don't know if you're using your right or left body. Right. This is the symbology of space. So, and Fabian, you're next because I know you have to go. The symbology of space is, so in Laban we have space, we have body, we have effort, and we have shape. And those are 3 different or 4 different things that all work together. So this is just geometric space. We could say it's your head. It could be your hand, your right hand, it could be your left hand, but we're talking about the symbology of the actual space. Fabian.
Yeah, I would like to have a follow-up on my comment about homolateral, because for me, when you cross this way,
yeah,
you're still homolateral because you have the arm and the leg in front of you.
Yes.
If I do this, I'm contralateral because I have my arm in front and my leg backwards.
Behind. Yeah.
So I was wondering if I noticed you all, depending on the scale, sometimes you do it
Yes.
homolateral or contralateral.
Yes, and you're right. And it depends on the scale. And that's a good thing. Like you've added front and back, which makes it more contralateral. And this, I can totally see why it would be homolateral, where it's really just a body half versus a body half. But I feel like we could also say that once we cross midline, because of the countertension of the other part of the body, we might say contralateral. So I feel like it could be said either way. And different movement analysts might have a different opinion about that. But it's a totally, yes, like this, sorry, let me move it back. This kind of movement, I know what, to me, what it is if I move like this and I'm not crossing my hand, I'm coming to this point, then it's still just homolateral. But as soon as I go across, I feel more contralateral because I have to change the balance of this. That's for me. It might be different from another Laban movement analyst. And don't be afraid, I am not stripping, but I'm stripping because the bunny suit has gotten really hot as we've been moving. I have more clothes on underneath. Okay, anybody else? Questions, comments, or concerns, things that you're noticing. It's really helpful for the whole group to hear how it's landing in you. So feel free to share. And it's always very interesting for me to hear how it's landing in you. So anything you're noticing, anything you have questions on, anything that is of a concern in a positive or negative way.
Yeah, another comment. For example, going backwards, I realize I'm not very aware of my backwards usually. So it's very helpful to do the movement.
Yes. Exactly. And that's what, that's part of the benefit of these scales is that, now we're going to move into these spaces in our kinesphere, in our realm of possibility of movement that we don't move into a lot. And when we create a relationship with that, it starts to expand how we live in the world. It starts to expand how we live. The space around us gets bigger, right? Like I think Quentin said that once a few weeks ago about, now there's suddenly this awareness of these places. Right. And if we're shut into ourselves, which I mean, my God, we're in a lockdown, which has been going on for almost a year now. It's how much contraction and internal stuff, like how do we keep finding this? So let's just play a growing and shrinking exercise. So growing and shrinking is sort of one of the base levels of shape flow, where we're just getting bigger and we're getting smaller. We can think of it as having breath support. You can get as big as you want to get. You can get as small as you want to get. But feel what that is. And this is omnidirectional, any way you want to go, taking it, getting growing and shrinking. So a lot of times in Lama, we would say, inhale and open and exhale and close. Although sometimes it works the other way as well. Like if you're on your belly arching, it's probably better to inhale. Or sorry, there's ways. When you're, anyway, think of, just forget what I said about that. Let that piece go and just keep going on with the growing and shrinking, finding different ways and maybe finding different ways to access your kinesphere. So if you haven't been, we've been very linear in this up, down, side, side, forward, backward. Maybe you need to start to find the diagonals more. Maybe you need to cross both arms or let your whole body move in different ways. So keep that movement, but play with growing and shrinking, getting bigger, expanding out, and getting smaller. And then, as you're in that exploration, start to feel, what do you feel like you've awoken in your awareness of the space around you? Like, have you been skipping the back space? Have you been skipping the low space? Have you been skipping the high space? Are there places in your kinesphere, and for most of us, it's going to be always the back space, but are there places in the kinesphere that feel less alive? And obviously, as humans, we're sort of made to move forward in these patterns. So what if we move back? How is that? How do we find the back space? How do we bring our awareness to the back space? So yeah, and this is more of a free flow exploration, right? We're moving from these really form-based exercises to an exercise that has some form, but much more freedom for you to explore. Where is an interesting place to go? And maybe slow it down and pause once in a while. Maybe just move one body part. It's really hard for me to move one body part. Maybe try moving 3 body parts or 4 body parts or whatever you gotta try. Try different things. Yeah, so there's different ways of moving out and in. So we're gonna go with some cycling. We're just gonna shift it. We're just gonna cycle in the vertical plane. So you're basically just going up and down and being as flat as you can. And change the direction. Other way, cycling around the vertical plane. So we've added some side-side to our up-down. We are out of the single dimension and we're in the plane, also known as the door plane. And then we're gonna shift it to the horizontal plane. The table plane, we've got side-side with front-back. Cycling in that. Maybe you want to turn it the whole way around. So I'm noticing when I do my turn, I'm here, my arms are straight out. And then when I stop it, they go the rest of the way into plane. So here it's like really just horizontal dimension and then into the plane. And then let's go with the sagittal, forward, backward, like you're throwing. You could run forward and back, or bowling. Bowling in one direction, throwing in the other direction, finding that and just feeling how, yeah, and you could do it with both arms. Or do one and then the other. So we're cycling in the planes right now. And I had intended to go to the cube next, but apparently we're in the planes. So let's talk about these. Let's move them first. And let's do it with our eyes. Dawn's just coming in. So we're going to go with our eyes and we're going to do the vertical plane with our eyes. Hey, Dawn. So we're going to, oh, hey, Dawn. We're going to go high right, high left, low right, low left. So just your eyes. We have vertical, the primary dimension, a little bit of horizontal, secondary dimension makes the door plane. So high right, high left, low right, low left. It's really hard for me just to move my eyes and not move my head. So you can try it moving your eyes and head or not. And if you were in an actual doorway, let me do it this way. This might work better because it's a little further away. Touching the 4 corners, that's like the vertical plane, the door plane. Here's your visual image, door plane. Let's find the space in that. Let's come back in and look at what the imagery for that is. And of course, whether or not you, oops, whether or not you memorize this, this imagery, that's really, it's up to you. But it's just giving you another way of looking and another language, some more language tools, which are like, to me, the most exciting stuff. And that's one reason why I was drawn to lab movement analysis, is because I love movement, I love language, I love communication, I love psychology, and I feel like it really brings it all together. So let me show you points and you can guess what they are.
Side?
Well, it's side, but is it high or low? Yes, Laura's got it. Which, I don't know which side you guys are seeing. I am assuming you're
Okay,
left.
yeah, I understand.
So that's left low.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Okay, say it, somebody.
High right.
Yes, high right.
Low right.
Yes, low right, right low. And then of course the last one.
Left high.
Yes, left high. Yeah. So these are the highs. And these are the lows. Yeah. So that right there is the vertical plane. And so we're just talking about space. We're not talking about what body part is going there. We're just talking about the space itself. All right, you guys did so well in that. Let's move the horizontal plane. So getting up, and I'm gonna actually face the other direction so that you guys can move the same way I'm moving, which I'm gonna take off the whole bunny suit also. Oh, yes, the bunny suit. I had a bunny suit. I had several bunny suits when I was little, and now I've got one as an adult. And you know, in this cold weather, it really brings me a lot of joy. It's the most appropriate thing I can wear in my cold house. Okay, so we're gonna go with our horizontal points, and you're gonna see me from the back. I apologize, but then it makes it easier to do the same movement. So right side, we're gonna go right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. One more time, right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. We could do them crossing. I could go right forward middle with my left hand, right forward middle to left back middle. Right forward middle to left back middle. Let's do it the right side, left forward middle to right back middle. Left forward middle to right back middle. We could also cross in the back and open in the front. So just all of these provide a different way of looking at how we're moving in space. Like, did I cross back there or was I just open back there? And what's different? What's different in my organs and my tissue if I'm working in a crossed compared to an open position, right? Just feel it, sitting on your butt. Try crossing to the back corner and then opening to the back corner. We're changing body parts, but that's fine, or body sides. So I'm crossing with one hand and then or I could do the same hand and open to the other side. Cross back, open back. Cross forward, open forward. Cross forward, open forward. Yeah, so try it with the front as well. Yeah, and you can step it. Like if you want to look at what Lindsay's doing, she has got a lot of she's doing the whole pattern with her whole body. Yeah. So where does that, what level is this plane taking place on? And you can unmute and say it. What do you get? What level do you think it's all happening?
I was assuming that it was right in the middle until you just said that, even though.
Well, exactly. And I asked, it is right in the middle. Yay. Sometimes the question does have a simple answer. And so all I have to do, I'm looking for my symbols. I'm like, where are the symbols that have a dot in it? Here they are. So what is this?
Right forward?
Yes, right forward, and the dot says it's middle. So this indicates the point where it's going to.
I get that.
So what's this one?
Right back middle.
Exactly, right back middle. Interesting that this really works for you. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm bringing it in, because certain things, like the way that we learn, can be very different from person to person. So what's this one? Oh, you unmute. Yes, yeah.
I don't know.
I feel self-conscious about saying all of them. Somebody else say
Do
it.
it. Go for it.
Left back middle.
Thank you. And then
Left front middle.
bingo. Awesome.
See, if I was doing that with my body, I would need time to think about it, and
But
I still wouldn't get it right.
Yeah. See, so this is a way that you can figure out you're super intelligent. You can get this, but you just need to take the time to think, right? Like, oh, right forward middle. You know what it is. You just need to give yourself the translation, right? Yeah. Okay. So that was our table plane. The primary spatial pull is side side. The name of the plane, horizontal. The secondary spatial pull is forward backward. So in these planes, there's one dominant spatial pull, and there's a secondary spatial pull. And the dominant spatial pull is the name of the plane. In the single dimensions, there is only one spatial pull. So in the horizontal dimension, there's only the horizontal dimension, but there are two directions. There's side side. In the sagittal, there is only dimension. There is only one spatial pull. It is the sagittal. It is straight forward and backward. These are the single dimensions. Two directions, forward and backward. So in the vertical, we only have up and down, one single dimension, two directions, one dimensional pull. In the horizontal, and when we switch to the planes, we have two pulls. When we go into the cube, which we're going to get to in a minute, we have three pulls. This is my homemade cube. I've been trying to make these shapes so that they actually work. All right, so we haven't done the sagittal images yet. So let's do let's do them without moving them yet and see how that goes. So what is this?
Left low,
Back low.
back low.
Yep.
Back low. Okay, I have to get that again. Yeah, I did that right.
Wait, this is back low. So this.
Front low.
Front low.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, you're right. It is front low.
This way.
Oh my God. It's hilarious when I'm.
That symbol is extra confusing because it has the directional parts on it. Yeah.
Forget it. Okay.
If you put them together, they're one rectangle, right?
No, if I put them together, they are aligned. Oh, sorry, down along the bottom of my body. So this means low and low. So actually, here, we got to get these right. It's front low and back low.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I mean, I'm like looking in this anyway. Pardon my like my challenge. And then we have what is this? Front high and back high, right? So if I wanted to have a diagonal through the middle, I want to go front high to back low, it would be this. Hold on. Yeah. Oh no, that's front low. Where did it go? I seem to have lost one of my. I don't know where it went. Anyway, you guys get the idea of it, right? So that was all of them. How did I lose my thing? Oh. Because it fell under their couch. The moment of stupidity. So this is, again, let's go with that. What is that?
Oh shit, I don't know.
Front low. Colored in means low. Ditch means high. Oh, sorry, means front. Let me just say more weird things to confuse you. This would be back high. Yeah. So that thing, whether the knob is going, if the knob is going down, it's back.
Oh.
If the knob is going front, is up. If it's colored in, it's low. If it's got the diagonal, the stripes through it, it's high.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, hold on one second. If it has a dot, it's in the middle. Okay.
If it's like back high, is there a primary pull and a secondary pull? Like is back more needs to be more of a thing than high, or
yeah. So okay, let me find back.
Are they equal?
No, it's not equal because it's in a plane, right?
Okay.
So these are each of these four things together creates a plane, and the plane. What's the name? If I'm in forward high, what plane am I in?
Sagittal.
Exactly. So that's the name of the plane. That's the primary pull. What's the secondary pull?
Vertical.
Or I was just doing it vertical, up and down. So we have a primary pull and a secondary pull. Like this is super theory oriented. But I love that stuff. It's so much fun. And it just gives us another way of looking and thinking about it. So let me put things together and you tell me what plane I'm showing you. Or I can just show you one image and you can tell me what plane it's in. Yeah, Abby's doing it.
Vertical.
Nope.
No?
Sagittal forward.
That's sagittal forward, okay.
It's in the middle, so that should be a big clue.
Forward, okay.
If you cycled, yeah, there, let me give you the rest of those pieces so you can see. Oh, this one goes both directions. These, oops, there. What are those? I'm in the middle, but I've got a point.
Sagittal, no? Forward?
No, we have.
Ooh, horizontal? It's the
Thank
front
you.
horizontal?
Yes, horizontal. These are horizontal.
Oh my
Anytime there's we've got the primary is side side. The secondary is a little bit of front back. So it technically moves through the sagittal, but it's not the sagittal plane, right? That's what makes it confusing. Okay. Let's see. What about this? What plane is it in?
Is it dot? Hmm.
Here's another piece of that plane.
Horizontal.
Nope.
What?
Vertical.
There you go. Vertical plane. We've got low because it's dark, and we've got high. So there's a lot to think about, right? And I'm throwing you, like, nobody would ever make you learn all of this, especially, but I'm insane. And I think that people have to be challenged sometimes, right? And you see, I make the mistakes too as it's happening, but it's part of it. It's part of learning. Go, oh, right. In
Wait,
fact,
how do you know which is the primary and which is the secondary? Because
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
it varies in two respects. It
right.
varies-
The name of the plane is the primary.
But
So
any shape, like if I'm looking at the thing, how do we know which is primary and secondary?
well, if
Right.
you're looking, you have to know what the plane is. Once you go, oh, that's got high and low, that's high left and low left. Those places are in the vertical plane. So primary is vertical. You're not going to be able to look at the image and go, I know because of this one thing, right?
Right, but if you reverse one of those that's in your hand, so they vary in two respects. No. So have the low one point the other way. So no, yeah, like that. So it's
How would I move through that?
well, so it's
Yes,
low.
Lo's got it.
Yeah, it's like these two. So it doesn't cross the middle, but
Right, but you could, so we're talking about the space here. I could go high right to low left, or I could go high right to low left, right? This doesn't say anything about what part of my body is moving.
Right.
All this says is the space that I'm moving to. Yeah, okay, I see Pina's getting, your brain is getting fried. So
okay, but so those two symbols, so it's high right and low left, but how do you know whether the high low is the primary or the left right is the primary?
because you know that the name of the plane, you know that these two things, high right and left low, are in the vertical plane. And so you know that the plane is that the dominant spatial pull is vertical because it's up down.
But left and right are in the horizontal plane. So how do you know that's not the primary plane?
Because we have up and down. Because we have high, like in the horizontal plane, there is no up down. So you could look for what is not there.
I was thinking the horizontal plane was like this, but it's like.
It is like that. It is like that. And you move through the horizontal plane to go kind of from here to here, like there's the horizon, but it's not a point that I'm stopping on, right? Go ahead. I know I'm frying all your brains. You guys are gonna hate
I've got
me.
a question because I still don't get the sagittal. Can you show with your body, is the sagittal front and back? And can you show me real quick?
Yes. And think of the sagittal as a wheel plane. But let me just say one more thing. I've got another tool to help you to envision these. And that is, oh, I had a piece of paper specially cut for this. Oh my God, the absent-minded insane person making a class. Okay, we'll use this. So this is all of the planes put together. Here's my vertical, here's my horizontal, here's my sagittal. Which all of those put together make the icosahedron. So I'm going to use this without showing you the dot, but so here's the vertical plane. Here's high right, high left, low right, low left. Now I'm going to switch it into the horizontal plane. Here's the horizontal plane. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Here's the sagittal plane. Sorry. Here's the sagittal plane. Forward high, forward low. Sorry, I'm not getting it in there very well. Here we go. Here's on my body. Forward high, forward low, backward high, backward low. But it's that. So let me show you the moves now. Virginia. Here's forward high. I'm going to show it sideways so you can see. There's my forward high. There's my forward low. There's my backward low. There's my backward high. Again, we want to keep the hips pointing forward. So my forward is there right now. Forward low, forward high, backward high, backward low. If I turn this way, I'm just in my horizontal, right? So I got to keep my pelvis, or if I'm looking at you, there's my backward low, there's my backward high, here's my forward high, here's my forward low. When we're talking about space and these symbols, we're only talking about space, the space I'm moving in. We're not talking about what body part. If I say my right hand forward high or my left hand forward high, then we're adding a body part, so you know that. But never think of the right and the left as being a part of your body when we're talking about space. All right. What else? What else? What else is going on? Dawn.
I'm sorry to be late and I have to leave right at 1, but I'm glad to pop in anyway because I love everything. I have a question. So you know how the forward and back is like these symbols, right? Forward and back. How come they didn't make forward and back like this so that it wasn't, like, how they have the one?
Yes.
Yeah. How come they didn't make it like that? Because it's always a little funny because even though there's no right and left issue with forward and back, the symbol has a right and left piece.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. Your symbol is way better. I have no idea why they didn't do that. Like, it's imperfect. It's a system that they made, like, when did he make
get used to
almost
it, like
100 years ago. So
yeah, but we get used to it like anything, I guess.
yeah. And I have to tell you, it's so funny because I posted this and I posted it on the Laban thing. And hold on, where's my left forward high? Okay, so here's my, for me, this is right forward high and left forward high. Not for me, for you. Anyway, I had written I ripped it up. But in one of them, I had put these diagonals like this. And somebody wrote, the stripes are in the wrong direction. As I posted, I was like, oh, you're right, thank you, I'll fix it. But it's like, people, do we want to think of the big thing or the little thing? And both things matter, right? Do we want to be at the tiny detail or do we want to be at the big picture and just go, okay, it's a bit of a mistake, but I can still get the gist of this. And I have to find, I fall into that whole, I have to admit, I fall into that hole sometimes of, I'm reading something, it's really well written, and then I see a spelling mistake, and then I think this person's an idiot. And then I'm like, they're not an idiot. They're writing an incredibly good piece of paper, right? So, and it's one of the things that stops me from writing more is my own perfectionism in looking at writing. And it's holding me back, right? Because I need to write everything so perfectly. And then I send it to 2 different people to like edit, and they both totally rip it apart, change everything. And it's like, that's not what I was writing. What? So like there's that piece. So just the perfectionism. And, anytime we have a formal system, there's a lot of perfectionism in it, and people can really get onto that. And, so, and I have to say that with the Laban system, a lot of times it's not too contentious, although several schools have split apart. There was the Laban Institute, there's the East Coast, and then there's the CLMA. There's a few different institutes. So,
That's often the case. And that perfectionism thing in my racism work, that's one of the characteristics of white supremacy.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So we are coming to the end of an hour, and I know that I've blown everyone's minds. I've even blown my mind trying to teach this. So let's go Virginia, then Lindsay.
No, just on the perfectionism from a PhD perfectionist here. I'm starting to consider that it's also a safety thing. Like, hey, I'm used to it like this. I've worked hard to get it like this. Don't change it up, because everything in my mind goes, whoa, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I just want to say something to that, because every time that's a safety thing. We're trying to protect ourselves from something, right? So every fear, everything is our way of being like, and that is all the stuff that we use to inhibit ourselves and inhibit our bodies. And sometimes it has served us, right? Like, I better act like this because otherwise something really bad is going to happen to me, right? Sometimes we do need to get smaller or contract or just to survive. So those mechanisms that we have served us also, as what they may not have brought the world into, Eden and perfection yet, but they serve. So, and sometimes letting them go. And when we start to move in bigger spaces and start to access things that are new to us, it can have like a psychological effect of like, oh, I'm not sure, this feels weird. This is like, how many times have you heard somebody say this feels weird, right? Oh, my body feels weird. Like, yeah, you just did something you've never done before, right? And what is that starting to release? You know, because when we do start to move things, things start to move. And things that have been holding a nice pattern that's kept you safe for a long time might start to crumble. And that can be an unsafe space. So in this work, you always want to just back off whenever you need to, or you feel like, oh my God, what? And remember that I'm making these videos and they're all on, you can look at them. They're all on my website. Yeah. All right. See you later, Dawn. And so.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add that, yeah, it's like you're saying, it's not so much doubt is not the enemy, it's uncertainty. So by experiencing, when we allow for experiencing, we don't have to have that freezing of perfectionism.
Yeah. And also when we give ourselves just 1 second to look and experience at the shitty thing, whatever it is in ourselves, or, you know, what is that thing that is like coming up and so uncomfortable? Can we sit with it and breathe with it for a second? You know? Okay, Lindsay.
Okay, thank you. This is a technical question back to the symbology of planes and why, like, because I was really confused, perhaps in the same way that Michael was, I think, but I'm not sure. And I was wondering if when something represents like two things, like it's both horizontal and vertical, is there a sort of hierarchy? Like if you see both in a symbol, are you going to read one before that you're going to know to go horizontal before you go for, like, or not before, but with more intention or?
Yeah, I think that
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that the answer is knowing which plane the symbol is in, because then
okay, so I just
know the plane, like, oh, okay, so this symbol is in the horizontal plane. I know it's in the middle level because of the dot, and then it's got this
forward
in that direction. So I know I am right, forward, middle, right? I'm going to right, forward, middle. And so, and then if I'm in this one, I'm going forward, high, right? Sagittal. So I know it's in the sagittal plane. If I'm in this one, if I just go to the space, I can go, oh, that's high right, that's in the vertical, right? And then you know that the dominant spatial is the name, right? So if you start to learn what's high right, and it's here, like really bisecting the horizon and this, and you know, if it's that's not quite what we would talk about the vertical plane. Although you could, I'm really nitpicking, right? This is that perfectionism. We want a little bit more height than we do side side. Then it's clear that that's the vertical plane. That's how we would know it in our bodies. In the sagittal, forward high, it's got more forward than high. And I can't tell you how often when I'm working with kids, their forward high is like right on top of their head. Like, no, more forward than high, because it's sagittal plane, it needs more sagittal. And that's why when we think of these planes really as being rectangular, as opposed to thinking them as being squares, and this is just with the sort of physics or the physiology of the body, it goes, okay, it's gonna go more that way. And in the horizontal table plane, we're gonna have more side than we have forward backward. So the sagittal maybe doesn't make quite as much sense, but then we just keep it to the rectangular frame. So we want to put all of those ideas together. So just to blow your minds for 1 second before we go on and see how you feel about this, what do you think that is? Yes. So we've got, well, there's one more thing in there. We've got high, it's left, and it's forward. So this, I mean, if we could put, this is like the same thing as that divot, right? And I think that's why yes. So this is in the cube, just so you know, that's got 3 equal spatial poles. We'll talk about that maybe next week. But so each of these things, I know, but I feel like depending on how you are, like for me, if I learn it in my body, I'm a space freak, I love this stuff. Depending on how you are, how you like to eat your sandwich, like some of you could go through all this and really get it, then slowly start to put it into your body, right? But for other people, it's like, oh, once it's in the body, my brain can do it. But it's different for everybody. And this is why I feel like this kind of education for children in school would really shift the way that they learn. And also the health of their bodies. Oh, we're moving through space. We're enlivening our organs. We're enlivening our tissue. We're hydrating. It's so much more healthy. Anyway, all right, that's all I'm going to say. Anyone want to say anything else before it's over? Is that a goodbye, Abby, or are you going to say something?
I have a question. Laura, I love your classes. You know, I'm like dedicated to learning this from you. How can you go through the like slash and then like that thing again?
Got
Remember
that.
how like one is like
Right. That's this. That's the
I
cube.
don't know, it's like
Punch,
floating
back,
up and then
yeah.
quick down.
Yes. We'll do that next week. We'll work the cube next week.
Okay.
This is the cube. And this
All right,
is the
thanks.
diagonals in here. This is
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so we'll get there next week. That is the other form. And then, yeah. That's it. All right. Go ahead, Peen.
Yeah, I had not a problem, but with the side across, it was difficult for me, but I liked it because I could open afterwards. So I started liking it because I could do the opening up afterwards. But I don't know, that was what I was feeling.
And that's a great reflection. Like, and also like some people really like the closed positions and not the open positions. And it could be different on a different day. So this is another thing to even think about. Like even having a class, sometimes I'll just have people start with open wide and now close it in. Open wide and close it in, which is sort of similar to like that growing and shrinking. And then like, which one feels good to you today? And actually Liz Koch, who's the SOAS lady, Liz Koch, who I've done a bunch of workshops with as a student and as a co-presenter with her, she talks about like the arching and the curling as being like primal functions, right? When we're in that arching and opening or the hollowing and curling, there will be different days that one feels really good and nurturing and another day the other one feels really good. So it's good to tune into like, what is the need on the physiological level on any given day?
I wanted to say I really appreciated finally making to the live version, and how much this was enlightening my qigong practice and some, or giving me more dimension. Yes,
yeah.
I think that's the word.
And Laban had looked at martial art movement. Like he was really familiar with a lot of things. So he wasn't drawing this just out of, growing up in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He's looking at all these different systems. And that's one thing to say is that all of these systems are really related. Yeah. And like the thinking that was going on at that particular time, like he had in 1913, Laban was like at Monte Verita, which is the Mountain of Truth in Switzerland. The Theosophists had been there in the late 1800s, like Jung, Freud, like everyone's going through these places. And it's not a mistake that this thinking is happening together, right? That these or people who've, visited the East and come back with yoga, and that's landing in the same place of new thinking. Like it's all completely interwoven and related. So it's never just one thing that's come from one pure place, right? It's unless it's like several thousand years old, and then maybe it is. But by the time it's gotten to any of us, it's multiple layers of different cultures and people. And one thing I want to say about Laban is, man, he had a lot of people, a lot of women particularly working with him. Susie Paratet, Mary Wigman, real genius thinkers. He wasn't doing this by himself or disseminating it alone. There was tons of people engaged in the work, and he ends up getting a lot of credit for it. This happens a lot, right?
Yes.
So
much.
Yeah, just to be aware. And actually, I've written a few essays about this stuff. And like Zurich Dada, he was in Zurich. There was like that Monte Verita, which was
yes, the Dadaist. Yeah, I can see the shape.
And that was the artists who had left, didn't want to be in the war. Right? What am I fighting? I want to make art. So they were in Zurich to avoid the war, and this art movement arises. That's very like, what the fuck, So yeah.
The symbols remind me of them a little bit. Well, some of them.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what it was all happening at the same time. And if you look at like Dalcroze and Steiner and the thinking, even like Kandinsky, there was a period in the 30s where Laban was in the Kunststadt of Munich. And they, Munich wanted to be this art city, and all these artists were coming there. So like what happens in a place where that's going on? Like Kingston's trying to do that right now where I live. They had this arts council thing that I went to, and I was like, and they really listened to people. They split people up into groups, and they said, this is what we've come up with. What do you think about this? Are we missing anything? Like this is how we create change, right? This is how things happen, is when all levels agree to come together and listen to each other on what's good for our city? What do we want for our city? So, I mean, I feel like that was happening in the arts and in the thinking and the movement world in these times in history where things have come together and sort of so much interesting stuff has come from there. Anyway, I'm going to stop it. We are at 1:10. Super happy to have you all here today, and thank you. Yeah. And feel free to just write to me on Facebook or wherever if you want to say anything ever, like, or interact. I am available. Yeah. So thank you. And I'm doing the Embodiment Playful Circle tomorrow. If anyone wants to come, it's at 1 o'clock look through the embodimentcircles.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's how I know Virginia and Peen and Abby and Maria.
Give me 1 minute. I'm going to get that link for you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you.
And the embodiment, like what we do tomorrow, it's with Oprah Wolf, who's a contact improv person, somatics person, and really fun person. And it's like very interactive and not as much, there's no lecturing. You don't need to learn anything. It's just playing.
It's really good fun.
Yeah.
There's the link coming up now.
Cool. I haven't even looked at this chat today because I realized that I was getting so distracted every time. So I'm like, okay, no looking at the chat. All right. Love you guys. Thanks so much for coming. Did you get it in there?
Give me a second because it's not doing it. There you go.
There it is. There it is. You've got it.
Okay, I'll take
and
it.
Quentin, you've been awfully quiet.
Thank you.
Where is it? Okay, there. Okay,
There you
great.
go.
Has
everyone grabbed it?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
See you. Bye.